Thanks for checking out another clip of the Cashflow Contractor. We'd love to have you as a part of our audience. Click subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
You don't have to journal literally writing. I do think that there is a value in doing that, but I oftentimes just pull out voice memos, like especially when there's big events. Just pull up a voice memo and start talking. Go on a walk and start talking. Just get all those same thing that you would do as if you're typing, but just put all the thoughts out, right? And I like to do that with major events. I've had several major events in my life this past calendar year, and it's so great to go back and listen to those things because there's so much context that you forget about, and you get to understand your feelings and what the real moment was like. So yeah, I think journaling can be a 5-minute activity is I think an important thing to understand, but it also doesn't have to be something that's very formal. It can be a casual voice recording to capture that. Now, my only qualm with all of this is that while it's great to journal, if you're talking about remembering accomplishments and tracking them, you're going to have to revisit your journal or your voice memos to be able to do that. And that's also a difficult piece of this.
It is, but I have a section in my notes for every coaching session I do. It's the last thing. It's called accomplishments. And I use the word in our coaching sessions, like on Google Meet or recording on Plod. I'll say, oh, that's quite an accomplishment. Well, I'm complimenting them for that, but I'm also marking that. I want chat to go find that and put it in accomplishments. And then I was thinking, man, I want to carry forward all the accomplishments from prior meetings that we identified. And then I thought, which is hard to do. I don't know how to do that. But I thought, I don't have to do that. I can look at the last section of every printed off notes that I have and add them all up. And I have, I printed off this morning. I didn't count them. I should have. I think it's 28, right after the first of the year with a long-term client. I said, let's review the accomplishments from last year. And I think I have 28 here. I didn't count them all. But implemented a new CRM. They got a new accountant who's keeping amazing books. They have what they're proud to call a tech stack. I didn't even dive into it, but they have one and it works. They bought a machine to help manufacture. After years of thinking about buying some land and putting a facility on it to manufacture instead of buy, they actually bought the land. They got power installed and a driveway in and insulated the building. They have some new suppliers, all of these things that they have done that when we're sitting there talking about them, they're going, oh yeah. They take it for granted that they now have a building and 14-acre facility with 3-phase power and insulated and air conditioning with a machine that makes what they sell in it. Now, I'm not saying they discounted that, but when we talked about that, they go, oh yeah, that was an accomplishment. It immediately just becomes part of who they are. And these are great people. They don't throw it over their shoulder and disregard it, but they're not thinking, wow, until we go through it. And then they do think, wow, and it counteracts all the pressure and the stress and the negative that go with being a business owner. Not all the time, but everybody knows what I'm talking about. So anyway, that's my main.
A couple of thoughts with that. One, this reminds me of our conversation with Ken Rusk, who we had on. Great episode. We'll link to in the show notes. But just they write down their goals on a whiteboard that everybody can see, personal and professional, and they talk about them a lot. And I think that helps with it, being able to track these accomplishments. But also, what you just did for a client is what a lot of clients should probably be doing for their employees. I'm sure it will help retention. I'm sure it will help culture. I'm sure it will help everything of just your employees are succeeding a lot, and they're probably feeling the weight of just the current, projects that they're in, the tasks that they've got to take care of, and then their just life in general outside of work, just like you are. With that, it's always amazing how, because life is so fast now and we're just so more efficient than we're even just 2 years ago with the advent of AI and how much that's changing work for us. I think that it's really easy to forget who we wanted to be just previously. I had a conversation with my sister last night, actually, where, work's challenging right now, and just thinking about some of these challenges and kind of venting to me. We talk about work in that capacity. But, just 2017, she was a college recruiter making roughly $40,000 a year, decided to get her master's in human relations. And now, 7 years later, she's making well into six figures. And the director of HR helped take a company from, 20 employees to now they're at almost 150. And they're about to double to 300 because now they're private equity backed and they're going to acquire a new company. And so, if you would have told her in 2017, hey, in about 7 years, this is how much money you're going to be making, and here's what you're going to have accomplished, and the track that you're going to be on, she would have been like, no way, that's not possible, And I mean, she's literally more than 4x her salary. And so it's really cool to see, but it's also easy to forget how far you've come. And so this is a really valuable exercise to go through and something to
just an aside, but you can get used to 4x your salary and not think it's much. I mean, we've asked a lot of people, you and I both, I'm thinking of one guy we were talking about yesterday who sold his business. They say, what would you have thought in your first year would be just unbelievable sales? 150 grand. What are we shooting for now? 10 million, right? And not thinking, if it's 8 million, it's a bummer. It just perspective changes, and it's just valuable personally. I'm reading a book, and I've been struggling to remember the name. I was reading the Wall Street Journal, and they do book reviews in there, and this guy was in it, and gosh, I can't. It's about how to change what doesn't work, but that's not the main title. And it's basically, when you read it, it's basically kind of a reworking of lean, call it, but it's pretty good. And one of the things that he talks about in there is, what's the goal of the goal? Okay. So review your goals. Like, my goal is to do 10 million. I mean, that's a terrible goal by itself.
But why?
But what's the goal of the goal? And he also talks about asking, and I don't think he came up with this, he gives credit to somebody else, the miracle question. And the miracle question is this: suppose that whatever it is you want happens, whatever that you want to happens at night while you're asleep, not a dream, it just happens, and you wake up and you're unaware that it happened. What would things look like that would give you the clue that, hey, this has happened? I think that's a great question, because it starts to articulate what you have to do to make it happen, rather than just this big. Does that make sense? I can't remember.
You're thinking about the impacts and the symptoms, side effects of hitting that goal, rather than hitting that goal.
Kind of an exaggerated. You want a culture where everybody gets along, and you go to work, and the way you know it is nobody's yelling at each other. What happened? Nobody's mad. So-and-so showed up on time. So-and-so left and found a different job because knew that he or she didn't fit. So anyway, I thought that was a great.
That's really powerful. Yeah. Like, you want to be a $10 million company. That's your goal. You wake up the next morning and you are, I've got middle management completely in place.
Right.
We've got great cash in the bank. We don't have credit card debt. All these kinds of things. Which, it doesn't necessarily mean if you're a $10 million company, you have all those things. But if you've gotten to 10 million, you've likely been working on those things.
Right. But I just thought that was a great approach to it. It happens overnight. You go into work and you didn't know it happened. How could you tell that it did? And I thought that was great, because that's what you need to look for.
Thanks for checking out a clip from the Cashflow Contractor. We have full episodes where we go deep on topics that help you grow a construction business that runs without you, so you can have less stress, more time, more money. Now, we've got other videos, other clips, but if you want to check out the full episode for this clip, you can click wherever our editor put it. It might be here, it might be there, it might be over my face. I don't know. But thank you for checking us out. We'd love to have you as a part of our audience. So subscribe or check out a full episode wherever you get podcasts.